Hi, how you doing? My name's Jim Mills and I'm an RV technician here at Holman Motors. And we're going to do a walkthrough on your unit and kind of give you as much information as we can. We appreciate your business and we'll try to inform you with as much information as we can. Right here we have our generator. And this is a great generator. It's an Onan Cummins generator. And if you wanted to, you could pull this off and you could actually start it out here. You do have two breakers here. You got to make sure they're on, and then you have this button right here. You push it down to stop it and to prime it. So we're wanting to prime it right now, so we're going to push it down. This red light's going to come on here in a minute. It's going to tick a little bit. What it's doing is pumping the gas up into the carburetor, and then we're going to push the start. Push it down to stop it. I'm going to stop it because we have it plugged in. We don't want it to jump over from the transfer switch. But you do have a remote start out here. Now, these generators, no matter what you do, even if you're not going to use the generator, you have to run them for at least 2 hours a month with a full load on it. There is a counter on it on the inside that'll tell you how many hours it has run. And if you've owned it 6 months and it doesn't have 12 hours on it and you bring it in for service, the warranty probably won't cover the service. So make sure you do put at least 2 hours a month on it under a full load. It's just the proper way to keep everything lubricated and the carburetor from gumming up. So it does tell you right here on this panel just a couple of things to check. When to check them. Different part numbers for the air filter, oil capacity, what kind of grade viscosity oil you'd want to use, and just different things like that for proper maintenance. Right here is where you'll put oil in it when you're going to change the oil, right here to drain it, and underneath here is where your oil filter will be, and you just unscrew it and screw it in just like you would a car. Make sure you do the proper maintenance on this thing, and this thing will run for a good long time as long as you take care of it. But to put this door back on, we're just going to put it on like this, and then you actually just have to give it a hit and it pops on there, and that's how it stays. A lot of people ask me about this tape. This tape is here because there's a hole here and they don't want it sucking air from there. All the air sucks in from underneath, and that's how it keeps cool. Now, a lot of people would think in the summertime when it's hot, to keep this generator cool, if they're using it, hey, let's open the door, pull that door off, it'll get more air. That will actually overheat it. So the proper way to do it would be to keep that door on it and keep this door shut. That way it can suck the proper air from underneath it. Over here we have where our LP tanks are, and we actually, with the Fuzions, you get 3 30-pound tanks. So you have 2 here that are hooked up. You'll have one over here on the driver's side front that is a spare for you. But the good thing about this, it's a great regulator because you see it has a green dot. Let's say if I was using it, what I would do is I would run both valves all the way up open. The valves are only designed to work 2 ways, all the way up open, all the way down closed. In between you get no more or less gas flow, you just get a possible gas leak. So we run them both all the way up. This, the green dot, is pointing to this tank saying, hey, I'm drawing off this tank. So if we had both valves open, it drew this tank empty. This regulator would automatically jump over and start sucking off this tank. You would get a red dot here saying, hey, the one I pointed to is empty. I have switched over. Now, if you wanted to change this tank out with the spare one that you have, you would have to manually turn this over, shut this valve off. You could take this loose, pull this tank up, and put the other one in as everything's still working. You wouldn't have to turn anything off that's running off gas to change the tank as long as you did that. So, great regulator. Just keep in mind, you know, there is no way to tell exactly how much gas is in there, but we do fill all 3 of them up for you when the unit is PDI'd, so they're full for you. This right here is basically just a place that to air out in case possibly there was some kind of a leak here or whatever. It could get some fresh air from up here and from underneath. Go ahead and shut that. We have 2 lights out front. They're called docking lights. This is the switch for it. You have landing control, retract and extend, and that's for your landing gears here. And just got to make sure that you don't bottom these out, because you can blow a fuse that's actually right up in here. Well, this is a newer unit, so this is fused actually up at the fuse box, and we'll try to show you that as we get there. So we're going to work our way around this way. Go to here. This compartment right here is where we're going to have our hydraulic pump, and this pump is for the rooms. All three pumps will run off the same switch, and we'll show you that when we get inside. But now you see that the hydraulic fluids here, you would never check this when all the rooms are out. You only check it when the rooms are in, because it'll push hydraulic fluid in, and you want it to be about an inch from the top to be as full as you want to make it. You have a 12-volt battery here, and this is a deep cycle starting battery, but it's not maintenance free. All you have to do is pull these two caps off and make sure that the distilled water, and you can only put distilled water in these, is above the plates in the battery. As long as you do that with the proper maintenance of this battery will charge, discharge, and it'll last a good long time. Right up here we have a little fuse here, and it's a 15 amp fuse, and all this fuse is for the carbon monoxide detector inside. It has a battery just like the one at home that you might have, but it also is hardwired into the fuse box. Now let's say this unit, the battery went dead because it was unplugged, and the battery on the carbon monoxide detector went dead. Well, it's going to start beeping, so we know to change the batteries. But if we change the battery and that's all we did, you would never get it to quit beeping. So the proper way to do it is disconnect the battery, take this fuse out, take the batteries out of the carbon monoxide detector, put new ones in it, hook the battery back up, and then put this fuse back in it. It resets that carbon monoxide detector to where it will quit beeping. If you don't do it that way, it will not quit beeping. So remember that. We get fusions in a lot of times for that problem, and you have to do it the proper way to get it to quit beeping. That's about all in that area. This right here is just, it draws fresh air in for the battery, because the battery can actually have some fumes off it every once in a while. So just to keep you informed of that. Every door on the outside that would lift up or whatever has something on it that will hold the door up, so you don't have to hold the door. Now, if you look right here, we have a couple things here, and we're going to go back to that compartment here in a second. But this right here is your standalone converter. This works your 12-volt fuses. This creates 12-volt power, but it also charges your battery. So remember, if you ever lose 12-volt power, come check this. You have 3 35-amp fuses here. Make sure they're not blown. You have a light in here if you're working down here. This is heated down here, so you do have heat here for it. And the reason I was wanting to show you go back into that other compartment is because, let's say we lost 12-volt power and we needed to run our rooms in because our rooms were out. Well, you would take this off. You had another one on this side, and if you see this little thing right here, it's a sticker, and you need a 1/4-inch hex head. This is a sticker that you'll just poke. It'll go through to that 1/4-inch hex head, and what you can do is you can actually put it in there, run with a cordless drill, and you can actually work this motor, and you can run the rooms in and out with that. So just in case you ever lose 12-volt power, hopefully you never will, you do have that capability of running those rooms out or in with this pump by using a 1/4-inch hex head and a screw gun. That over there is the transfer switch. Now let's say we're plugged in and we turn on the generator for some reason. So we have 120 volts running the trailer. We turn the generator on. In a couple seconds everything's going to dim, and then it's going to come back on. And what it's going to do is it's going to switch over to generator power. Generator is the heart of the unit. If it has both 120, where it's hooked into a receptacle and the generator's running, it will pick the generator. Now let's say we turn the generator off. Once we do that, everything will dim, and that transfer switch will jump it back over to the 120 volt shore power. So just remember, it's proper operation if you ever have those situations that the lights dim and takes a couple seconds for it to switch over. This right here is just an amp for your radio, and there's really not a whole lot to tell you about that. And this right here is the outside to your furnace. Really nothing for you to ever do. It's electronic ignition. You turn on the thermostat, and as long as the gas is on and you have purged the system of air, which we'll talk about when we get inside, this will light on gas all by itself. So the only thing I will tell you is this right here is an exhaust, but the mud daubers, wasps, and everything are attracted to the LP smell. So in the spring, the summer, they're going to try to make their homes in there probably. Let's say you bring it back in the fall because the furnace doesn't work. We take it apart and find a home in there. It's not a warranty issue. That would be customer pay. So they sell this little screen that goes over it. It's called a mud dauber screen. It's a good idea to maybe get one of those to keep the mud daubers, the bees, whatever, from making their home in there, just to save you a little money. You have a TV inside, I believe it's up in your bedroom, that you could actually bring out here. It would slide down in there to hold it there. You have a coaxial cable, and then you have a 120 volt plug here. It only works if you're plugged into shore power, but it's also on a ground fault protected plug, which is inside. We'll show you that. It's a push button receptacle, just like the one at home. All your wet areas, kitchen, bathroom, out here, are all on that GFI breaker, and we'll show you that when we get inside. Stairs work pretty easily. 1, 2. Bring it out. 1, 2. So they work fairly easy. You do have an assist handle. Pick it up and go in. With the room was in, it would also go the other way. So if it was the other way, so it would be up against this when the room was in. When you ran the rooms out, you need to make sure this is not that way. So stand it straight out before you run the rooms out. Now the slide out rims are great because they make the unit huge, but they're not maintenance free. But really the only thing you have to do is you have these rubber seals here. Up, over, and down, and then you have like a squeegee here. Up, over, and down, and each slide has this. Once a month in the summer you need to spray it with a seal lube to keep it lubed up, because they're black, they'll get hot, they'll crack. Once they crack, the watertight seal is gone, and they have to be replaced, or you have a direct line for water to run into your unit. So once a month you'll spray these up, over, and down, up, over, and down. But you also have 2 rails underneath. Now by rails I mean this and another one just like it on the other side. You have teeth under it. You're going to spray it with a dry lube, which is a different spray than the seal spray. But once a month at the same time you're going to spray the bottom, the sides, the top, and then down in that gear right there. And just coat that, because you have metal on metal running there, and it'll help it keep quiet, or at least as quiet as it can be. So make sure you do both of those things once a month in the summer. Now, we've run the room out. Before we run the room in, you want to make sure nothing's on these roofs, because when they go in, they're hydraulic. They're going to go in, so you need to make sure that nothing's up there so it doesn't break the horseshoe molding, rip the rubber roof, or whatever. So you're going to have to get a ladder or whatever. Make sure nothing's on that roof before you run it in. You have speakers outside which run off the radio that's inside. We'll show you that when we get inside. This is the outside to the refrigerator. Nothing for you to really ever do. If I ever had to work on it, I have a control board here, my gas valve, a burner tube, things that we would work on if you ever had a problem. But you can turn these, right now they're going horizontal, turn them vertical, and then this will pull off and you can shop back that out. Just be careful, there's a lot in there that you could damage. Now your tires. Before you leave on your trip, before you come home, 80 pounds of pressure in the tires. This little cap unscrews with one screw. Pull it off, you'll have your lug nuts back there. It's 120 foot-pound of torque for each lug nut. You'll also want to check that before you leave on your trip. Check it before you go home. Now also back behind that cover, you have a place where you can get to your Zerk fittings, so you can put a little grease onto the bearings. kind of a gray area for me to tell you about, but they are there. If you know what you're doing, yeah, every once in a while squirt some grease in there with a grease gun, but don't overdo it, because you can actually push too much grease into that bearing and it goes through the back onto the brakes. Then all the brakes have to be, everything has to be disassembled, thrown away, and replaced. So just be careful there. Back door into your garage, stairs work the exact same way. You do have an awning, and it's an electronic awning, and it's basically just a button. You'll push it for it to go out, and then you press the same button to retract it. And we'll show you that also when we get inside. This right here is for your rear stabilization jack. So you get to where you're going to camp, you park it in your lot. You level the unit by putting something under the tires to level it back and forth, side to side, and then you would use your landing gear jacks to make it level front to back. And then you would extend these down to the ground, and they're not lifting jacks or leveling jacks, they are stabilization jacks. So you can never try to lift the unit with those, but you run them, snug them down to the ground to where you get rid of the tire bounce when you're walking in the unit. So just remember, never try to level with these jacks. You just cannot do it. Your back door, as you can see, we can't really pull it down because we're too close to our fence, but you just pull this up, pull the door up, pull it out. You do the other one the same way. The door comes down. It's on some springs, so it's not a real heavy door because of those springs. But that's how you would do that. To shut it, just put it back in there, put that down, and you can put your own locks on there to make sure nobody can get into the unit. Now, this unit has a shore cord. It's a 50 amp service. Now by 50 amps I mean it's still 120 volts. It's not 220, but it's 50 amps. Now, with this right here, this is the 50 amp cord. This is the adapter that we give you that takes it from 50 amp to 30 amp. So you could plug it in. Let's say the park you're at only has 30 amp service. You can plug it in. At that point, I believe this trailer has 2 air conditioners. I don't know, we'll check when we get inside, but you could only run 1 air conditioner off a 30 amp service. If you have 2 air conditioners, you need to run that. You can run both of them if you're plugged into the 50 amp service or you're using your generator. Your generator can run everything. So just remember, 1 air conditioner off 30 amp, both off 50 amps, or both off the generator. Now I'm also going to give you an adapter. It's going to go on here, and it's going to have an end that you can plug it into a receptacle at home, the 15 to 20 amp. At that point you can't run any generators. That is basically to charge the batteries, work 12 volt lights, whatever. You can run no air conditioners off the dog bone that takes it from 30 to the 15 to 20 amp. So we'll just go ahead and plug this back in and we'll move along. You have two gas tanks. The back one is for your generator. The front one is for your toy haul because you have a gas pump right here. You do have a manual shut off here, or you can turn it on. It'll tell you how much gas is in the toy hauler. Now if you pump your gas, 5 minutes later this will automatically turn it off. So it does have a 5-minute turn off for you. And inside you have another gauge that'll tell you how much gas there is for the generator tank. This right here, hopefully it's not locked. You can see you have a gas pump, has a pretty good sized hose, but you also have a grounding strap that you have to ground whatever, and they tell you to ground it about 20 feet away. And all this is in your paperwork, but you do have a pump here also. So you do need to remember that's the pump for that. Right here you have, this is for your potable water, meaning water that we're going to carry with us when we go. We didn't have a hose that you could hook up. You could fill it up here, and then you're carrying probably about 80 gallons. Now, if you look down here, this big white valve, right now it's open because it's pulled all the way out. If I was to fill up the tank, I could shut that, and that's how you empty your freshwater tank. It's I believe it's about 1.5 inch line, so if you want to empty it, it empties pretty quickly. Just pull it open. Doesn't take much to pull these valves open, so don't be a he-man when you do try to do that. Just pull it very easily. You don't want to pull that or break that valve. Now we'll work our way up here. Remember, this slide works exactly like the other slide. You need to take care of the seals and the rails under them once a month with 2 different sprays. Now it shows here that you have a black tank valve, which you can see it on the frame right there. Black tank means your toilet valve only. You'll have gray valves also, and I believe this unit probably has a bathroom in the back. So this would be for the back bathroom, and we'll look at that when we get inside. Hopefully I'm not telling you wrong. But that right there is your termination valve. That's where you're going to hook up your sewer hose, which I'll show you here in a minute. And this, when you open this valve, it runs from this side down and out. The other ones will run from this front one, come this way and out. So you use that for both termination areas. So we'll go this way where we can see a little more. It does tell you you do have to have that cap on when you're traveling, or you could get pulled over and maybe get a ticket. Now we open this, you see you have another black tank valve. This is for the main bathroom. So black tank would be the toilet for the main bathroom. Then you have a gray tank for the shower, the bathroom sink, and I believe kitchen sink also. So these valves are right there, and it does tell you which ones they are right inside here. This is the sewer hose I was telling you about. If you took that cap off, this would go on, and you see these, it's got little nubs over there. This would go on, you turn it, and it would be held on there, and then you would put this into sewer. Always empty your black tank first, follow it up with your gray tank, because the gray tank's a little cleaner, and it'll help clean this hose before you have to handle it. Now a lot of people will have it hooked up. Let's say they have a site or a sewer right at the site. They say, okay, I'm going to put this on and I'm going to open all my valves because I want my sewage to go right into the sewer as I'm using it. You cannot do that. You have to use it. Have to use your holding tanks as holding tanks, because the only way you have to get rid of that is the pressure. As it fills up, when you pull that valve, the pressure helps push it out. Now the black tank's the main one that you would have problems with. If you kept that black tank valve open, the liquids would outrun the solids, leaving the solids behind in the tank, and then people like me have to work on that. And we just appreciate you using them as holding tanks, and that way we can keep that tank in good working condition. This right here, this exhaust is for your generator, so just be aware if you're running, you'll have that exhaust right there. This is your hot water heater, and it's a 12-gallon hot water heater. It's electronic and it's gas. Now if it's working on gas, it's electronic ignition. If it's working on electric, that means you're plugged in with your shore cord, and you have this rocker switch right here. You'd pull this silver pin out and you turn it on. You would never want to do that right now. We have no water in it. As soon as I turn that on, 30 seconds later, that element would be burned out and we'd have to have it replaced. So make sure there's water in there before you ever turn that electric element on. You only have one switch for the electric element, and it's right here. You don't have another one inside. So if you're going to want to heat the water on electric, you have to turn it on out here. This right here is the plug for your water heater, meaning right now it's dewinterized, so there's nothing in there and it's out. So this long rod right here is called an anoid rod. It is a safety for your tank. Anything that would eat a hole in that tank will eat this away first. So in time you're going to have to replace this whole thing, and it's about 20 bucks, but it's a great safety to have for this tank. Just like your home water heater, you have a relief valve here. If you had water in here, this was in here, and it was tightened down and you had water in the tank. Before I ever tried to take this back out, I would pick this up, make sure it stays open just like that, and unscrew that. If you ever tried to unscrew it with it down like that, you've got pressure on the tank. When you got to that last thread, you better be standing out of the way because it's coming out like a bullet. These two things right here are called ECOs. And what they are is safeties for the tanks. If the tank ever overheated on electric or gas, one's electric, this would pop out. It would kill power to it, and so it's a safety. If that ever happens, come out and try to push it in, see if it works. If something's wrong with it, it'll pop back out, so your safety won't be in jeopardy, but I would at least try it first. Now, if water's coming out of your relief valve and it gets all over this, not going to hurt a thing, so don't think I can't get any water, and this is all 12 volts, so it's not going to hurt anything. Now we're going to kind of talk about winterization, and it's kind of a long process, might bore you a little bit, but at least you'll have the idea about what we're going to do. So let's act like right now we're de-winterized, which we are. So I would want to, no, we're winterized right now, and we want to de-winterize it. So this is what I would do. You have some low point drains, and let me find them for most of them. I believe they're on the other side of the frame. We'll show them to you before we come in if we have them. But you have low point drains. One's a cold water, one's a hot water. What I would do is take the caps off them. I would go inside and I would open all the valves, cold water, hot water, because what it does is it pushes pressure through the lines and it gets rid of most of the antifreeze that's in the lines. Then I would put those caps back on the the low point drains. Then I would come in here and you have a city water hookup. You have to have a water regulator. All these units are designed for no more than 65 pounds of pressure running through the lines. So hook the water regulator up to the spigot, and then hook the hose that we're going to give you up to that water regulator and the other end to your city water connection. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to turn the water on. You're going to go inside and you're going to turn on the cold water valve, run it till all the antifreeze out and the water's clear. Hot water valve, run it till all the water goes through it and it's clear. Then you're going to do the kitchen, bathroom, shower spout, toilet, bathroom sink. Then you're going to go to the back where you have a washer and dryer hookup, and you're going to open those valves till all the water runs clear. Once you've done that, you're going to come right here where it says water heater bypass. Now, because it's winterized right now, you see the winterization valve is on. Well, when we go to de-winterize it, that's got to be turned to off, and the bypass has to also be turned to off. Now, at that point, after you've got antifreeze out of all the lines, this would still be like that, but when all the antifreeze is gone, you're going to turn it to here. Water's going to start gushing out of this hole right here. It's allowing water to go into the tank now. Now, what I need you to do is I need you to allow this to drain for a little bit, because it's got a little bit of antifreeze in there. And you're going to watch it till the water's nice and clear. When the water's clear, go turn the water off at the spigot. You're going to get this, put a little bit of Teflon tape on there, push it in there, tighten it down with an 1 1/8" socket. When that's tight, you're going to go and you're going to turn the water back on. But when you turn the water back on, you're going to run to the kitchen sink and open the hot water valve. Now, nothing's going to come out of that, because water's going to start building up in this tank and start filling up. When it gets full enough, it's going to spit and sputter out of that hot water side at the kitchen sink. When it's full, it's going to run strong just like it's supposed to. When that happens, the water heater is full. You don't have to mess with it again. Turn that hot water valve off at the kitchen and you're done with the hot water heater. Now, what you have to do then is turn the water off at the spigot, disconnect the city water connection, and you're going to go back to the potable water we showed you in the back, and you're going to put the hose in there and start filling it up. But if you remember, the valve underneath is open. So you're going to let that water go in and go out the valve for a minute or two, just to clean out that tank of maybe any spiders or spider webs or whatever that might be in there. And then you're going to shut that valve and fill them tanks up. Now, when them tanks get at least half full, you can go inside and turn on the water pump. When you turn on the water pump, you're going to go back to the kitchen. You're going to turn on the cold water, run it till it's clear. It's going to already be clear, but it might have a little bit of water or a little bit of antifreeze in it. Then you're going to do the hot water valve. Then you're going to go to the bathroom, do all the water systems there. You're going to go to the back where the washer and dryer could be. and you're going to run that until it's clear. Now, one thing I forgot to tell you is you have a little bit of water right here. So you have cold and hot water, and we have a connection inside that I'll show you. You need to make sure you do these also. So once you've done all them, and remember, you're already done with this, so you don't have to mess with it. But once you've done all them, you are de-winterized, and you're ready to camp. Kind of a long process. We don't really expect you to remember that, but it's not rocket science. But it is something you can do on your own.